How's it going? How we doing? Alright, Andrew, Crete, Belief, Arwen. How we doing? Sergeant Dom, how's it going? So I'll go through, I'm going to have a wee review of this debate. A guy called Grayson and a guy called Ross. I've seen him somewhere before, but there's some things that I want to highlight in this debate. Things I spoke about previously and warned people about, especially flat earthers. You know how, they're going to come up against a wall when they try and take this aspect of the topic on, because, flat earthers are missing something absolutely vital. The globe earth is just as bad, to be honest with you, but at least the globe earth recognises that it required an external force to try and assert the model that they have. Unfortunately for the globe and these flat earthers, both are just as ridiculous as each other, and I will go through why they are as ridiculous as each other. Again, there's a real problem here with people and their bias and their lack in comprehension of physics. You're going to see the lack here, and you're going to, the things that I warned about, you're going to witness it here. It's pretty telling. But as I say, this is not an attack on just flat earthers. This is an attack on the nonsense that's propagated as scientific, the nonsense that's propagated as physics. People don't even have to go into these depths of any sort of debate. The globe earth right from the off fundamentally requires a physical downwards acceleration, or their model does not go any further than that. I don't care about the images they have, I don't care about their appeals to stars, moons, suns, optical phenomena. They require a physical downwards acceleration. So does a stationary Earth. Both of these models are fundamentally flawed at the very drawing board, at the very base of them. The requirement, that the need is not there. And I'm going to keep repeating this. And I'm not going to go away. And the only hope that's there is that these people start to realise the predicament they're in. I'm going to start this about the 50-minute mark, and the aspects that I want to focus on last for about an hour. So we'll see if I can get through the whole thing in one sitting. Failing that, I will do a secondary part of this to get through the rest of it. And then what I'm going to do is break all this up into little sections. Again, I have to question the reasoning of people. Again, my reasoning comes from practicality. Man's reasoning has to be rooted in some demonstrable practical reference, or else it's absolutely useless to me. These people, if you want to come and get involved and have a discussion on this aspect, you really have to have the practical with you. There's too much of this opinions and beliefs seeping back in again, like it, your opinion and that's your position and this is my position and that's total nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Physical reality is physical reality, regardless of the philosophical meanderings of whether reality is really there or whether it's an illusion or it's this or that. Look, we have to reason from the experiential position, that being that we are physical beings in a physical realm and we operate from the position of experience. That's where we're reasoning from, right? You cannot deny physical reality. in any way, shape or form. As I've said so many times before, if anybody's willing to step up to the mark to deny physical reality, then I've got a few implements here waiting for you to demonstrate your denial of physical reality. I've expressed this before, you know, the philosophical meanderings of absolutely incompetent morons waffling on endlessly about reality. Is it really there? Is it really solid? Did you... Look, a newborn animal, child, human, whatever, has no concept of the world, has no beliefs, has no imagination of the world, has absolutely fuck all, but is subjected to the physical world. Cause and effect. That's a fact. If you want to philosophically play mental gymnastics, you're onto fucking plums as far as I'm concerned. Right? You can meander in your imagination all you fucking like about what's at the real root of reality, whether it's an illusion and whether it's really solid at its fundamental core. As us as experiencing beings, where we have to operate from, you know, the point of experience, it's definitely solid. It's definitely out there. It's definitely objective. Does not depend on my beliefs, your beliefs, opinions, positions, this, that and the other. It is what it is. And in order for a man to qualify his reasoning, it has to be rooted in the practical, experiential aspect of reality. No some philosophical position. You can go and take a fuck to yourself. As I say, I'm open to your philosophical position if you're willing to step up to the mark and demonstrate that reality is not really physical. Because I guarantee you, you will not stand in front of me as I swing a baseball bat at your skull. Because you know fine well what's going to happen. Too much hairy-fairy fucking opinions and beliefs nonsense as far as I'm concerned. It's like a tennis match of nonsense, Andrew. You're very rare. Very right there. Very, very right. There was a debate, yes, there was a debate, with a character called Grayson and another one called Ross or F.E. Ozzy, or I've seen some other title. You maybe recognise the guy's face. Again, this is not an attack on these people. I don't know them. I'm only going to focus on the content aspect and how utterly ridiculous both of them are. It's downright fucking stupidity is what it is. Hello everybody. Simulation nonsense of some people, yes, JT the game. As I say, look, you know, imagination wise, you know, we can play with these concepts and ideas, but, you know, human beings cannot escape the experiential aspect of life. You know, your imagination, your conceptual notions do not trump the facts, right? That reality is what it is. You know, some people don't like that because a lot of people are invested in fantasy. They love these fantasy notions. You know, I come and show physics and show that how the force is acting and what a force is and how we can demonstrate the direction that the force is going in and yada yada yada. And people want to run away and chastise you and fucking push you into a dark corner. Well, they all sit there rattling on about infinite planes and fucking reality's a simulation and this, that and the other. You know, and you go, right, well, what grounds do you have for that sort of proposition? Oh, that's right, none. It's bizarre, is what it is. Absolutely bizarre. Only 65 watching. Ugh, so what? Fuck it. Who cares? Who fucking cares? I'm just going to keep hammering on regardless. Right? Eventually, people will arrive at it. Right? When you know, these flat earthers and globe earthers get together for debates, I hope and I love it when it's in regards to gravity, right? Because the two of them are just going to be as ridiculous as each other as you're about to witness. Let me just get one thing ready here. Right, got my whiteboard sorted out. Dan Jones, Earth's motion is the only explanation that can be demonstrated. Exactly, Dan. Exactly. But again, a lot of these people, you know, avoid that very, very true fact. You know, at the end of the day, everything that's stated here can be qualified through a practical process. Absolutely nothing of any of these other people can be demonstrated through a practical process. Aye, Vinny, exactly. Showed an old couple today the displacement of gas and liquids during acceleration, then showed them the bottle in free fall. They said it's more likely the Earth's coming to meet the bottle. Exactly. You know, and you've still got these morons like Oakley running about making mantric statements about gas going down, going boom boom. Gas doesn't go down. Yet when we show a demonstration of helium rising through water in a vessel and we let it go, these same people claim that the whole thing, the helium and the liquid in the bottle, are now all accelerating towards the Earth. So that they're contradictory in their own worldviews. They want to assert that gas doesn't go down, right? Yet when we show a demonstration, they have to, you know, make the statement that the whole thing accelerates towards the Earth, including the helium and the air. Because their position's fundamentally flawed. It's an absolute joke. Dirt was short for desperate, yes, Simon. Don't know why there needs to be a debate about things with weight don't float. Don't know what you mean, invisible chains. Nachiketa, how's it going? Listen, you know, I emailed you, you know, Nachiketa at the start about this whole flat earth, globe earth thing. The sooner people, you know, cotton on that there's aspects at play here keeping people divided and playing games amongst each other, the better. The sooner you realise that, the better. Now, in my experience, the best thing to do is to totally ignore it and to focus and hammer on content. Because, you know, when we start focusing on personalities, it's not going to end well. There's too many irrational people who are emotionally invested in characters and persons. So, you know, you actually add to the divide when you start to focus on characters and persons. You know, the content is what tells the story. You know, that you're not going to get to a point where you can unite, you know, these utopic fucking nonsense ideas. You know, it's very, very difficult. As I expressed before, you're dealing with a populace of irrational, emotionally impulsive people. We're not living in an ideal world where people are rational and logical. It's not like that. So the only thing that's going to happen, and that's what's going to happen to you, Nachiketa, you're going to end up in this never-ending spiral of name-calling and different camps being set up, and, you know, now there's people in your camp, and there's people in that camp, and this other camp, and it's the same old nonsense. You know, again, for me, physics is physics. This topic is physics based. You know, for me, we have to remove all other aspects, big trees, Mandelas, religion, politics, yada. You know, why can we not isolate each topic and have it as its own representation? Why does these topics have to be saturated by other subtopics? It really, really bothers me. You know? But anyhow, I'm not here for that. I'm here to get through this debate. Let's get to it. So as I say, I'm starting it from about here. Hopefully the sound's okay. I'm going to play 10 seconds of this, and then I'm going to come to the chat just to see if you can hear it.
That's gravity, and they say it's 250 miles high, so that's clearly false. Basically, everything is resistance, and if you think of acoustics, for example, is a good way of thinking of it. In sound, we say that the higher sound.
Right, can you hear that? Can you hear that? Yes, she's gonna hear it. Good. Good.
Sound is always the lighter tone. The deeper sound is the more bass things. Everything in physics requires a base. The base is the form of resistance from everything starts. So the density tower itself has a base, and then it has solid walls. And everything finds its place when it's at rest. Once it's at rest, that's where we get the word resistance from. So everything once it's at rest.
Straight away off the bat, Ross here's talking about, you know, how matter and, you know, begging the question and using circular reasoning that, you know, things have just got a base and resistance is the base. No, look, Ross, you know, inertia, the resistance that you're talking about of matter is the resistance to motion. That's how the density tower formulates. Because there's a resistance, each density, if you want, and I'm using that term loosely, has a resistance to motion, a different variable to resistance to motion, right? So in free fall, there is no density gradient, there is no pressure gradient, there is no orientation, right? Because the force is no longer acting upon it. The only thing that's there is that resistance to the motion. Now when we let it go in free fall, you can see, you can witness there are acts on it equally. So the true resistance is what the globe earth would call, you know, gravity or dark matter, dark energy, gravitons. And then on the other hand, you get people calling it ether. We're talking about the background membrane that gives rise to matter, that sustains matter and holds matter in its form. There is a background medium there. So the resistance is caused by that. That medium is static. Okay? It's not moving, it's not flowing in any direction. That's when we'll get into the warping and bending of space-time, because on the globe side, this background medium like this, you know, you've seen them if you look at these square sections here as some sort of grid, and then we place matter in here, right? Now this grid's warped, right? As the matter displaces it, right? Now as that's moved through that grid in a direction, it's going to continue to warp this background medium. Okay? That's what's happening. Once the force is removed, you can see that momentum is lost equally in all matter. Again, you can go to the globe earth side for this, and they're dropping things in a vacuum where you can see the rate of deceleration is equal. Okay? It's only when we have air resistance present that we get a different rate of drop, what we call drop, which would just be, in reality, a deceleration, a loss of momentum. But we'll get to that.
Distance to one thing to another. When everything is in free fall, which is what you falsely call is 0G, it's actually everything is just in free fall in an enclosed capsule, creating the simulation of zero gravity, because everything's falling at the same time at once.
See, here we go, right away. Everything's falling at the same time at once. Right. Again, when we apply force to matter, Again, William here can apply force here. William cannot apply equal force to the trolley, to the wood, to the bottle, to the liquid, to the gas. There is no force that we have access to. It's not part of reality. So when William applies force here, the rest of this experiences its inertia, the resistance to motion. Now as William accelerates that forward, we get compression happening. Then we see the air travel in the direction that the force is going in. So people like Ross and globe earthers, flat earthers, stationary flat earthers, globe earthers, want you to believe that there's a force, that being a special force only on the downwards vector, that can accelerate all of the components, all of the various states of matter, so that there is no separation. Let me just get one of these up. Hang on, just bear with me here. Again, you know, these people want you to believe that there's a force accelerating everything. Now, if that force was really true, again, it should blow people's minds that this buoyancy disappears instantaneously. As soon as Andrew puts this into freefall, the only force present is the tension of the spring. The spring contracts to its original position, bringing the ping pong ball under the water, so buoyancy is no longer present. Right, now, they want to claim it's all accelerating down to the earth at the same rate, then nothing should change, everything should remain where it is, and everything should accelerate equally towards the earth. Again, they're asking for a ridiculous thing. I'm going to grant them it, but again, what we witness in the actual test is that that's not the case. This is an open vessel again, so you know, people think a closed vessel or an open vessel is going to make a difference. Andrew's also got a set of keys attached to the bottom of this. So, according to these people in their models, weight is a thing. You know, weight is its own thing. It's intrinsic to matter, yada yada. So not only are we going to see the buoyancy, I mean, if you were to push on that ball, you would feel the push back on your finger. The buoyancy's there. And also we've got more mass here, being more weight, according to these people. But the spring's going to contract to the centre. Weight and buoyancy instantaneously gone. How quick it happens. So you can see here, the keys are now off the bottom. The ping pong ball is now off the surface. So downwards acceleration, where everything accelerates equally towards the ground. Well, what happened here then? Where did your magic go? Gone. So no, Ross, everything doesn't accelerate equally to the ground. For one, you're special pleading for absolute nonsense, and for two, when we show you a test like that with a ping pong ball and a spring, it contracts. According to you, as you've just asserted, everything accelerates equally, but not in that case.
Well, everything is just free to drop at the same rate. the rate of drop is not determined by the density of the object, otherwise heavier objects would always fall faster than the others, but everything is falling at exactly the same time. Once it comes to rest, then the things will form themselves according to their relative density and give us the density tower that we see. You need resistance and at rest from the base of the tower.
So you need resistance at rest from the base of the tower. So what Ross is saying, it has to be connected to the earth. Right? Well, your relative density should be there regardless of whether it's connected to the earth or not, Ross. Okay? And you don't get, what do you mean by rest? Because something can be in motion and still be at rest. You can be travelling at 150 miles an hour on a train with an open cup of hot coffee sitting on the table at rest. So, people have to clarify what they're actually meaning when they're using this language, because too many people are missing what's being stated.
I think that you fully understood that you've just got here with this example. So really, I want you to actually visualize what we're talking about right here. Like the column, it seems like you got the column, it's got the different levels of different density, and you've got a really heavy little lead ball, and you drop it just in a normal room, right? And that lead ball goes through all those different layers of density, right? And it goes all the way to the bottom. And then when you go up to an airplane, like when I say 0G, I don't care, I'll just say free fall, right? Because you understand, when you're in free fall, then you're all of a sudden, you're not everything around you is not falling like you're in the room anymore. If you were to introduce that lead ball in that airplane in free fall, it would not fall through those different layers of relative density, even though the same densities are still the same layers as before. There's no change in any of the relative densities. All the same relative densities are in all the same order. They're in the same order in the column. You have not changed anything about the relative densities.
Let's let Ross
The only thing that you've changed are in free fall, and when you drop the ball, it doesn't fall. Why not?
That is absolutely not a gotcha. That is completely false, because I've already described that. Because everything is in free fall at the same time. And we know that there's a universal rate of drop of the 9.8 metres per second squared. That is just the rate of drop.
Are people hearing this? This is a flat earther, people. Everything is accelerating at the same rate of 9.8 metres per second. For one, that's false and a blatant lie, Ross. You have never went to test that other than an optical observation. You've taken it verbatim from your globe earth hangover. Secondly, Ross, you have not demonstrated that it's a vector acting downwards. Because the vector's not downwards, Ross, or Grayson. And Grayson knows that fine well, which is why Grayson has never come back. Because he knows what's going to happen here. And you'll hear Grayson using an aspect, a point later on that he got directly from here. So it is a gotcha, Ross, as I've just demonstrated for you. It's all accelerating down at 9.8 metres per second. What happened here then, Ross? What happened here? Oopsie. Whoopsie, Ross. What happened to it? Thought it was all going to accelerate. Why did the force of the spring's own tension take over? Huh? If it's all accelerating, because remember, your force, when it's in that position, your force has to be acting on all the matter, including the spring, equally and at the same time. But yet it doesn't. Oh dear.
Drop as we observe it. And everything, in fact, inside the density tower will actually start to reverse, given sufficient amount of time in dropping. The base will end up becoming the top, and the things will reverse form, and so the lead ball should stay at the top. Everything.
See this shite? You listening here? Ross knows a certain that eventually, the density tower will invert, right? But they're talking about it, again, it's an instantaneous acceleration. So let's just see, shall we? Let me see. just find it, so I don't know. I'm trying to find his downward acceleration, hang on. I'm just going to find what actually happens here when we accelerate down. Just bear with me. Two seconds. So, there's the free fall. And this is downwards acceleration, instantaneous. Now remember, Ross and Grayson, stationary flat earthers and globe earthers, you know, both claim downwards acceleration of 9.8 metres per second, right? Now Ross, the flat earther, has just stated that eventually, at some arbitrary, unknown, non-demonstrable point, buoyancy and density will invert. Well, Ross, it inverts instantaneously when actual physical downwards acceleration is applied to the system. As you're witnessing here, the air bubble's now on its way down and the lead ball on its way up. This is free fall, where according to these people, it's a downwards acceleration with zero inversion, zero separation, zero density gradient, zero pressure gradient. Nothing happening in the system. When downwards acceleration is applied, buoyancy and density are inverted. Air now goes towards the ground and the lead ball towards the sky. So, you know, again, we can demonstrate how utterly insane and ridiculous these people are. Ross, again, just to reiterate, wants to assert the same as a globe that there's 9.8 metres per second acceleration downwards, acting on all matter simultaneously, you know, accelerate it all at the same rate, and then goes on to say that at some point, buoyancy and density will invert the opposite way. No, Ross, it's instantaneous. Instantaneous. Just like here. Instantaneous. Whatever the direction the force is going in, it's an instantaneous reaction that we witness. That being that the air moves to the direction that the force is going in. Same here. Instantaneous. Oh, it's no, oh, you need to accelerate to some arbitrary point before we see a new density gradient. No, no. Hello. Hi. How you doing, mate? Not a lot, mate, not a lot. Yes. No worries, mate. Oh, good stuff, mate. Excellent. Nice one. Appreciated, mate. Appreciated. No worries. No worries, buddy. Perfect, mate. Alright, bud. Thanks a lot. Cheers, mate. Bye. Sorry about that. So, the gradient when a force is applied is instantaneous. Not some arbitrary imagined place. Right? It's instant.
Falling at the same rate. It's only when it comes to rest and stops that the form of resistance comes from the base once again, and then they will reverse back into the normal structure. So,
how does the base get resistance, Russ?
You got no gotcha on me whatsoever.
Ross, you're not understanding the gotcha here, right? Because you are saying that what is causing the motion, this downward acceleration that I'm calling gravity, you are saying that what is causing that is the differences in relative density of the medium to the object. But in free fall, in this density column, you have not changed anything about any of the relationships for any of the densities of any objects involved, or the mediums. The density relationships are all the exact same, and that's what you're saying is causing this downward acceleration. But all of a sudden, we haven't changed anything about the densities. The downward acceleration is gone. So therefore, we know that that downward acceleration cannot have been caused by the relative densities.
That's where you're wrong. I don't say that anything is causing a downward acceleration. I'm saying that the downward acceleration is allowed to permit because of the lack of resistance. And that's the lack of...
So this is where Ross starts to go into fanciful ways of avoiding. Grayson's correct. It is a gotcha, because people at Ross want to assert that relative density disequilibrium is its own thing, yet in free fall it's no witnessed. You need an external factor that's been pointed out to him. So now he's saying that it's allowed and fluffy other ways of saying other nonsensical gibberish.
Resistance from the density of air. That's why in the vacuum, it's the perfect lack of resistance and everything will drop at exactly the same rate. But when everything is in free fall motion inside the enclosed aeroplane, everything is...
See, again, he just said it in a vacuum. Ross, again, is borrowing from the globe Earth and the assertion that it's a downwards acceleration. Now, demonstrate it in any other vector, Grayson or Ross. Isolate it. Change it. Change its direction and show us it. You can't. The reason you can't is because you're talking nonsense. You've got beliefs in absolute gibberish. Now, us, on the other hand, can invert it in any direction you like. Everything I'm stating to you can be shown in any vector you like. All the variables can be altered. So, he's talking about science, he's talking about hypotheses and variables and this, that and the other, yet none of you can achieve what can be achieved here. It's funny that, isn't it?
Free fall. There is no acceleration of one thing greater than another. Everything falls at exactly the same rate. So there's no reason for the lead ball to accelerate greater than the other things falling.
So you know, these people have to qualify, as I was stating at the start. What is their reasoning based upon? Other than looking at what they imagine's going on and interpreting it to their own bias. Your reasoning has to be rooted in some practical references. So if you believe there's a way to accelerate gas, liquids and solids simultaneously with no displacement between them, then that's your burden, a massive burden, because your claim is massively extraordinary. It's otherworldly. So you have to qualify your reasoning, which I know and you know fine well you cannot qualify. You have both used circular reasoning. You both start from a presupposed model, that being a stationary Earth and a globe Earth. Then you observe optically things dropping and interpret that they are going in a downwards trajectory. That's the claim of a vector. Now you have to account for a force that's going to act simultaneously on all states of matter in order to accelerate them as if they are one uniform solid. Just like in that example that William was showing here. What they have to now qualify is that they can accelerate all this without what we witness here, that being the displacement between the air and the liquid. How is any human being going to achieve that? Answer: nobody will, because it's not real, it's impossible. So they're arguing from nonsense.
Going at the same speed, is it?
Okay, so then the reason why, the cause for this downward acceleration, I'm glad you agree, is not relative density. So then relative density cannot...
Again, you know, it's overlooked and nobody pulls them up on it. Grayson, the cause of this downwards acceleration. No, there's no downwards acceleration, Grayson, son. You keep going round a circular reason with your circular assumption that there's a downwards acceleration. Again, Grayson, globe earthers, flat earthers, the challenge is out there. Demonstrate that it's a downwards acceleration. Good luck with that.
Explain gravity. So then what
Now you're calling it attractive ambiguity, whereas I'm saying it is relative density.
Ross, let me ask you a question. What is it that causes this downward acceleration?
Nothing, Grayson. It's a loss of momentum up the way. The vector, the force, is demonstrably acting upwards, and when that force is no longer active, then matter all loses its momentum equally. They want you to believe that there's a force acting downwards and that we are stationary in this force field and it's acting through us, right? Everything. The reality is that the Earth's system is in motion through the grid. The grid's the static thing, and it's us and everything within the reference frame that's actually in motion.
The density of air, the medium that it's in, everything is in that medium of air, and everything being more dense than air drops at the same rate.
So, but as the already described, right, in the free fall experiment, you can change those densities.
Right, hang on a minute, right, because we've just heard it. Let me get to Andrew's one. Wait a minute. Here, there's his helium balloons, his helium one. I'll just go to mine's actually. I'll come back to it. So when we do a drop, you know, as Ross is saying, oh, the vessel's in air, and air's not as dense, but there's air within the vessel. We've even done a drop with helium within the vessel, which is less dense than the air outside of the vessel. Yet the helium still remains in its position relative to the medium. As the whole thing's now, according to you, accelerating through the air, and helium included, and going downwards. Ridiculous, Ross and Grayson.
Densities, as in an actual experiment, you change the independent variable of the density, and you're saying the density is what's causing the downward acceleration. So you change the independent variable, and you get no change on the dependent variable. You don't get any change in the downward acceleration, so they're not causative. So your hypothesis has been refuted.
Yep.
That's rubbish. We're still in the medium of air, are we not?
It's no rubbish, Ross. It's no rubbish, mate. Again, this is what I warned stationary flat earthers about. They're going to back you into a corner because the globe earth knows fine well that it requires an external force acting. They've went through this in their model. They need something to cause direction, weight, buoyancy and density. The only problem is for these people is that they've got their force acting downwards in every direction, right? On their globe earth. Well, we've got air rising up the way. Or helium, whatever you like. So they've got two things going on. They've got a downwards flow, well there's an upwards one going against it at the same time. A double vector. Theirs is just as ridiculous as a stationary earth, but again, they recognise that they needed an external force to account for these things, whereas stationary flat earthers like Ross don't have a clue.
It doesn't matter, like you're in the medium of the density column, and you're introducing a heavy lead ball into the middle of this density column, and you're figuring out which way it goes.
Yeah, but the column is
When they're in free fall, when they're in free fall, all of those relative densities are in the exact same orientation as before. Nothing has changed about any of the relative densities. So therefore, nothing should be different about the downward acceleration if your hypothesis is true. But when you're in free fall, there is no downward acceleration. It's completely gone, so your hypothesis is false.
That's right. Everything is in the same accelerating field.
Yeah, relative to each other, right? But that's the thing, is that you're saying...
I mean, he doesn't even comprehend that he's using their model. This guy who's a stationary flat earther is using this guy who's a globe earther's model when he keeps asserting that everything's accelerating at the same time.
It's the relative density that's causing causing these downward accelerations. But we haven't changed anything about the downward accelerations. But we haven't changed anything about the densities. And the acceleration is changing. Why?
Acceleration is not changing.
When you're in free fall, right? When you're in the airplane, I'm talking about the acceleration of the lead ball relative to the acceleration of the density column. That's what I'm talking about.
They're all dropping at the same rate.
So then their acceleration relative to each other is 0, Ross.
Correct.
Yes,
that's right.
What I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So we are agreeing now that you have not changed anything about the densities, and yet you're
shooting yourself
relative to each other is 0.
You're shooting yourself in the foot because I'm saying that relative density only happens when a thing is at rest. Once you bring the thing to rest, once it stops on the ground.
Once it's connected to the solid earth, Ross, aye. That's because it's the force of the earth moving that's causing your buoyancy and density. Which is why it ceases in free fall. And why when it's connected to the earth, the air is now travelling in the direction that the force is going in. Like this, Ross. That's why you have buoyancy, Ross, because it's only there when the force is acting, and the air will show you the direction of the force. So if William now takes that bottle off and stands it on the ground, the air bubble is rising to the top, showing you the direction that the force is travelling in, Ross. Stationary flat earthers, globe earthers. Both of you are going to be keeping looking absolutely ridiculous because you don't have a fucking clue. The reason you don't have a fucking clue is because the both of you are religious morons, starting from presuppositions, worldviews, beliefs, and then trying to argue against reality to make it fit, bastardising physics to try and make it fit your worldview. It's very simple. The air correlates to the direction the force is going in. Demonstrable. Yes, boy. What?
Can I get £2?
£2 for what?
Hula hoops at the shop.
Hula hoops?
Yeah.
For £2?
Yeah.
You're at it.
I'm not at it.
You are at it.
No, I'm not.
I'm sick of this. When are you going to start getting me money?
How about on my birthday when I get money?
No, that's not good enough.
Money.
No, I need it weekly.
Weekly?
I need at least £400 a week. So how are you going to get me it?
How about £10 a week?
Right, bring me my change. £10 a week's not enough, son. Right. So, again, the density, or what we call buoyancy, correlates to the direction the force is going in. In free fall, there is no buoyancy, there is no density, there is no pressure gradient. There's nothing. Until again, as Ross is saying, at rest, on my stationary earth. No, these people are that dumb. If the force was acting downwards, right, the vessel would accelerate downwards and the air would be here and the liquid would be here. But no, they want to bypass that. No, it's all accelerating at the same rate until it hits the solid earth, and then the force of that going down the way causes a compression inwards that then forces the air up the way. Blah, 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 blah. So now they've got a double vector acting simultaneously in two different directions. Absolute poppycock. Total and utter lunatics. Pseudoscientific, hogwash, fucking Harry Potter, Star Trek belief systems. Total and utter shite. There's no other simple way to put it. There's no niceties to put to it. They're talking through a hole in their arse. They're incredulous. They are suffering from Dunning-Kruger. Don't have a fucking clue what they're on about.
Ground, and you put your density tower on the ground is at rest, and then everything will sort itself in accordance to its own relative density.
And then it goes again, it'll all sort itself in accordance to its own relative density, like it fixes itself. No, Ross, density gradients are caused by an external force acting on matter, son. Okay? It's that simple. Let go of your little cult mantra of stationary flat earth and stop being fucking ridiculous. You're muddying the waters and making it a shit show for real, genuine people like me who accept and grasp physical reality, who can demonstrate their position in every way, shape and form. You cannot. I challenge Ross, I challenge Grayson, challenge this guy, every globe earther, every stationary flat earther to come and see who can achieve. I guarantee you, the only one that's going to be walking away with her hand in the air is fucking me.
Because if you throw a ball up in the air, right, it's not at rest, but gravity still works to bring it back down to the ground. So we know gravity doesn't work when you're at rest.
It's still more dense than the medium of
No,
air.
you're falling apart, man.
Air does not give the ball buoyancy.
Acceleration.
Air does not give the ball buoyancy. That is why it falls through it. It does not resist it. The ground is more dense enough to resist it. Water is dense enough to resist it. That will give it buoyancy. Why would you expect air to give it?
Ross thinks that matter will just give buoyancy to stuff for the sake of it. Buoyancy is caused by a force.
The ball's not at rest, and yet it's still being affected by gravity.
Yeah, but if thing stays at rest, will remain at rest unless another force acts upon it. So until you threw it in the air, it would stay at rest and it would stay on the ground.
The other force is coming from differences in relative density, and that's creating a force that we call gravity. But I'm showing you that cannot be the case because you can literally have two differences in relative density, introduce an object into them, and it doesn't move towards the least dense medium if you're in free fall. That refutes the idea that this could be caused by differences in relative density.
Yes.
Why would it? Why would it when it's in free fall? Everything is in free fall together.
I'm trying to make this very simple. We can move on because I don't think that you're going to get this.
Give me 2 seconds to grab a lighter here. Every time Ross, says that, again, for people like Ross, look, we can increase the buoyancy, right? Buoyancy's got nothing to do with things at rest and stuffs. It's because force is acting, force is present. So in this scenario, we're going to add to the already existing pressure gradient. So the buoyancy's here. Now, as the whole system's accelerated upwards, we're going to see an increase in buoyancy in that direction. Whoa, there you go. And as it hits free fall, whoopsie, where's buoyancy went? Why did it all not just accelerate uniformly back to the earth again?
I'm going to try one more time to explain this simply, okay? There's two examples, right? You have a lead ball being introduced into the middle of two different mediums. One's a less dense medium, one's a more dense medium, right? And you're saying that it should go towards its relative densities, it should fall down towards the least dense medium, right? Because the lead ball is more dense than the medium around it. And that's what's causing that acceleration. Is the differences in density between the lead ball and the medium around it, right? You're saying that's what's making that lead ball, because it's not being supported, so it's just going to go down, right? But when you're in free fall, when all of those density relationships are exactly the same, you haven't changed anything about the densities, how they are relative to each other. But now, that lead ball just stays there. It doesn't move, it just stays there.
Actually,
Why?
if anything, I would say it would rise to the top of the tower in appearance.
It doesn't, though.
It doesn't.
You know why?
No, Ross, it doesn't. But it does when you actually accelerate it downwards. On the left, free fall. No separation of the air and the lead ball. In this one, the air's on its way up. The lead ball appears to be on its way down. As we let it go, they both stay in their relative positions. Now when we accelerate this one down, as you can see the lead ball's here, it inverts. The lead ball now appears to be going upwards. See, this is what I'm saying with these people. They hand wave things away, they don't properly investigate, they hand wave people like us who are showing physics, showing physical demonstrations, and sitting there with a glaikit look in your face. No, it doesn't. Does it? Does it? Why are you even in a debate, Ross, and you've never done the work to get your position ironed out properly, mate? Is it just because you fancy yourself as some intellect and this is your test to prove to yourself how intelligent you are? Well, I'm going to tell you, Ross, it's a shit show, mate. You don't take this as a slap down or a put down or some sort of attack that you now need to defend and let your ego get in the way. Humble yourself. Accept that you're wrong. Fix your position, Ross. Then you can step up and hold people like Grayson's toes to the fire. Stop listening to Nathan Oakley and all these other fuckwits poisoning the well, putting out total rubbish. Right? Learn.
Right, because that pseudo force that's being applied to it is not because of relative densities. That's the reason.
Is that relative density, as I keep explaining it to you, you seem a bit too thick to understand. This can only occur once the thing has come at rest. When a thing is in free fall, everything is in free fall at the exact same rate. And you've also removed...
You know, again, it sticks in my craw that all these flat earthers attacked me for showing physics, but they freely allow these other flares to run about verbatim, regurgitating globe earth rhetoric. Downwards acceleration, everything accelerates uniformly at the same time and the same rate towards the earth. It's ridiculous. Absolutely mind-blowing, mind-numbingly fucking ridiculous.
The fact of doing it inside an aeroplane because all the air is also dropping with everything else at the same time.
Look,
whereas if you did it in the open air...
See, now air's all dropping at the same time. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's baffling.
You would get more air resistance.
If you admit that, which you just admitted, then you are admitting that relative densities cannot be the explanatory factor, because you're saying that the differences in relative densities don't affect anything until the entire system, both the medium and the object, are at rest, right?
Correct.
But when both of them are in movement, you can still have gravitational forces acting. And you can still measure those gravitational forces. So this is how we know that density cannot be the explanation. It's literally ruled out, Rob.
No, you can't, Grayson. Gravitational forces, son. Mathematical fucking hogwash, mate. Again, Grayson. The vector's demonstrably up the way. You do not have a physical measure of downwards acceleration. You have an optical interpretation. That being your Neil deGrasse Tyson famous drop the mic. Oh, look, it goes down. Because you're an idiot. Nothing more, nothing less, just an idiot. So Grayson, demonstrate, measure, physical, get it right, listen up, physical downwards acceleration. Good luck, son.
No, you're just making stuff up now. You can't measure anything
Both of you are making stuff up.
in free fall. A scale doesn't work in free fall. There's no gravity in free fall. Everything is just dropping at the same rate.
You just contradict yourself. You can't measure anything in free fall. Right? And then doubles down on his derp by immediately stating that it's all accelerating down. Okay, Ross, how did you measure it? How did you demonstrate this downwards acceleration, son? Oh, are you going to borrow from Globe Earth again? From Neil deGrasse Tyson and let stuff go and say, see, it goes down? Is that what you're going to do, Ross? Is that it? Again, as I said at the beginning, Globe Earthers and stationary flat earthers are one and the same. How many more examples do you need to be shown to you before the penny fucking drops? Excuse the pun.
Scale only works once it's at rest and sitting on the base of something that gives it resistance. If you try to put a scale in the bottom of a swimming pool, for example, then the density of the medium will prevent a person giving a true weight, but the mass of the person themselves...
Yes, because of the buoyant effect, because the force is acting upwards. So that's how you get your buoyancy, Ross. Not by a force acting downwards. If the force was acting downwards, density would be in the opposite direction. So you would weigh more at the bottom of a swimming pool. You would weigh more because the force is acting above, pushing on the water, causing compression in that direction. Just again, like this. The direction the force is going in is the direction the pressure goes in. Okay? So if that was the bottom of the swimming pool, and you had scales at the bottom of that, and you say there's a force acting that way, your weight would increase. But it doesn't. The force is acting upwards, causing the buoyant effect on you. So when you stand at the bottom of a swimming pool, you weigh less. That's why in a vacuum chamber, things weigh more. When you put a weight on a scale in a vacuum chamber and then vac the chamber out, the weight of the object on the scale increases because the air buoyancy is not pushing on the object to make it appear lighter. You've got everything back to front, lads, and it's all higgledy-pickledy and doesn't make any sense because you're a pair of fucking imbeciles.
It hasn't changed whatsoever. It's the medium which is giving the buoyancy.
You can do the Cavendish experiment in free fall and still measure an attractive force.
No, I'm not talking about...
What's the Cavendish experiment got to do with downwards acceleration, Grayson? Answer, nothing.
Cavendish experiment.
No, but just I'm explaining to you that you can measure...
We're talking about relative density. Okay? And it's the density of the medium that determines. Like, I didn't quite get to finish my introduction. If I might be allowed a second just to describe one part.
It's the open discussion period. It's no longer a presentation.
Yeah, but it's relevant to this. I'm just going to talk about the basketball. A rubber bladder contained within an even harder outer surface that holds a more or less perfectly spherical shape. In the medium of air, an inflated basketball readily falls back to Earth no matter how high we throw it. The compressed air within it adds to its mass along with the outer shell, and this not only gives it great buoyancy, but also great bouncing effects upon the solid base beneath the feet of every one of us. If we throw it at the ground hard enough, it will bounce high into the air, yet it always returns, as air is insufficiently dense enough to give it buoyancy. Throw it into a swimming pool, however, and it readily floats. It takes great perseverance and possibly even assistance to drag one to the bottom of a deep swimming pool, whereupon being released, it shoots with great vehemency towards the surface, shoots into the air, before returning, and finding a place of resistance on the surface, displaying its own weight in water according to the Archimedes principle.
Except in free fall, Ross. Again, pushing a basketball to the bottom of a... Everybody knows this. If you had a beach ball and you've tried to, lie on top of the beach ball, you can feel that push, right? Now imagine you could get the beach ball to go to the bottom of the water and you let it go and it immediately shoots up, right? Now if I was to place that swimming pool up on a crane, right? Were you holding that at the bottom of the pool and I released the pool into free fall, instantaneously that pressure, that beach ball is not going to try and push up on you anymore because it's no longer connected to the earth. The force of the earth's motion is no longer transferable. The compression in the water is no longer present. So buoyancy instantaneously vanishes, ceases to be. Because buoyancy is an effect of the force, not a force on its own.
So the basketball, when we drag it to the bottom of a pool, will shoot up
Yes,
Anti-gravity.
obviously. Why are you filibustering about stuff we agree about?
Anti-gravity. He's saying anti-gravity. No, it's not. It's showing you true gravity, Ross. It's showing you that the force is acting upwards. That's why the basketball shoots through the water to the surface.
Because it's obviously not gravity. Gravity gets turned off at the bottom of a swimming pool where all that water on top of the ball should be holding it down even more so.
See, now he's trying to reverse it onto Grayson, all that gravity. You're the same, Ross. You're claiming it's a downwards acceleration. So in your model's the same as his. All that water above should be pushing the ball downwards. Again, you're double vector. You're the same as a globe. You want a force acting downwards, right? But then you also want a force acting upwards to give you buoyancy. So you've got a double vector acting opposed to each other, which is preposterous.
Density or buoyancy, Ross? You know the formula?
Well, as I said, Archimedes' principle, it's the displacement of its own weight determines whether it floats or not.
And you know that there is a G in the formula for gravity. A downward force, a downward acceleration is already accounted for in buoyancy.
That's not a downward force whatsoever. That's
It
just
literally
9.8
is,
meters.
man. It's a downward vector with units of
It's
acceleration.
9.8 meters per second. It's 9.8 meters per second squared, and because the thing is floating, it is not accelerating whatsoever, so it becomes zero. And if you multiply anything by zero, you get zero.
You're
your
not
formula
accounting
is
for
faulty.
G. You're not saying that this
You're
actually is moving at 9.8 meters per second. You just have to account for that acceleration in order to properly account for the actual value of the buoyant force. You
It's a
have to
man-made
account for that
formula.
9.8 downward acceleration.
But there is no acceleration, so therefore you
You
make
have
it
to
zero.
account for it. That's the thing. I know you're saying that there is none, but it must be accounted for in order to get an actual, accurate calculation of what the buoyancy is.
How is an object at rest accelerating downwards?
Because it's in gravitational field. That's how gravity works, Ross.
Even in your model, Ross, an object at rest still must be pushing down on the earth. This again is what I highlighted for these idiots long ago. So you just heard Ross saying that. How's an object at rest accelerating down? Because, Ross, there's your stationary earth. Now if there's an object on the earth, it's your claim that the object is pushing down onto the earth, Ross. So it must be constantly present.
This is the basics. This is the very basics.
How?
The basics.
How is something at rest accelerating?
Okay, it's literally everything in a gravitational field. This is the basics of how gravity works. Everything in that gravitational field is experiencing that downward acceleration vector all the time. No matter
No,
what
it's not.
actual movement or not.
Grayson, again, I'm just going to keep fucking pulling them up. No, it's not. You don't get a buy. You don't get to jump to any other point until you've demonstrated physical downwards acceleration, Grayson. And you also must isolate it and change the vector. Because if you're claiming to know what's causing your vector, then you should be able to alter that variable, Grayson, and demonstrate it for us in some other vector. So now Grayson and stationary flat earthers must be able to accelerate gas, liquids and solids in another direction without any displacement whatsoever between them. Again, good luck with that. Pseudoscience gibberish.
You can have the forces that are balancing out so that overall the force is balanced and it's not moving.
Did you say whether it's moving or not?
Yes, because again, this
Okay.
is back to the
So
basics
it's not
of a
accelerating.
3D body diagram. I really don't know if you understand how to add up vectors when you're adding up like.
There's a downward force on objects whether they're falling or not. Is there? Do we have any physics to back that up? No, we don't.
Forces that are acting
I'm
on an
not
object.
talking about the basketball floating in water. Yeah, this is one body in a body of in a
Yes.
medium of water. And so when it's at rest, it's accelerating.
There are two forces
That
acting
is
upon
not a
it.
pseudo-scientific thing.
You gotta let
How does yours work, Ross? Because according to you, you've got a vessel on the earth at rest, and you've got a basketball now at the bottom that now starts to rise. What's causing it to rise up, Ross? What's causing your basketball in a stationary earth, in a body that's stationary? And now you've got a basketball in there and it's going up the way. What's causing it, Ross? Huh? That's right. You don't have a fucking answer.
Here, Ross. In order to figure out what forces are acting and what accelerations are acting on that basketball, which overall has a net acceleration of 0, you must add up. You must add up all the different force vectors on it, including from gravity and the buoyant force that cancel each other out and yield overall 0. But that G,
he thinks buoyancy is a different force and all. He's got gravity and buoyancy acting against each other and all this fucking gibberish. Total and utter fucking nonsense. Again, it's that simple. There's buoyancy being created right there. That's simple. There you go. That's how it works. That's reality. This is reality.
Downward acceleration is still something that must be put into your formulas to calculate an accurate value for its buoyancy. You have to account for it.
Let me just come back here to see what's going on. So motion is the antecedent to buoyancy. Yes, Malcolm. It's that simple. They don't understand the word acceleration, no, their ship bear, they don't. Alex, how's it going? We wouldn't know a world with or without it had it never been mentioned. It's all bollocks. Exactly, mate. You know, and what I'm doing here is trying to show and highlight for people. It's so simple to see how bollocks it is. It's simple. Buoyancy is not a force, exactly, Airship Bear. It's the effect of a force. As we can witness in free fall, buoyancy instantaneously vanishes. As long as a theory does match his observation, you have no reason to complain. Aye, except when they make claims of vectors, physical downwards acceleration. That's not there. Right. It seems so simple now, but getting here exactly by me. I mean, once you comprehend that they just inverted the reality, that's all they done. And everybody's just assumed, oh, that goes down, no, because to you, relative to you, that's how it appears visually, goes down. But if you're on two trains doing 100 miles an hour and one train goes slower, it looks like that one goes backwards. But they're both going the same direction. One's just getting slower. So visually it looks like that goes down. That's it. That's all I've done. And you can attach accelerometers to these things. We have these tools at our disposal. And they show you, for everybody, that there is no downwards acceleration. It's a visual interpretation of a loss of momentum in the upward trajectory. It's that simple. But people don't like simple. They're born into this complicated lie. So, in order to replace a complicated lie, it must be something even more complicated. Yeah.
You can't just ignore it and say it's not happening, it doesn't exist. You have to account for it to get the right answer.
Okay, so why is the basketball more buoyant in salt water than it is in fresh water? How does the formula work for that?
Because the salt water's got a more density to it, so the upward push, you know. Let's say we had a thing, right? Let's say we've got a vessel, right? Let's say we've got some air here. Now, as that comes up and compresses against the air, right? It's now pushing the air in that direction. Right? So air now has a direction to it. Now there's a buoyancy. If we had a helium balloon, say, and once that air reaches the helium balloon would be static, would be stationary. Now as this whole system comes up and the air starts to contact the helium, it now pushes the helium balloon upwards in that direction. Same with a basketball. If you get water here and you put salt in it, right? Now you've got more solidity here. You've got more density. Now it can push against the other denser solid material more than it could before as you increase the viscosity. It's that simple.
Because you have to account for the relative densities in buoyancy.
Oh, relative density?
Yes.
Ah, thank you. You mean if we look up what specific gravity means, we'll see relative density. That's exactly right. Thank you very much. The
I
debate
really
is
don't think that you're
just
wrapping your
explained
head around
relative
what's happening
density
here.
explains everything.
Look, relative density is not something that you can just throw away and ignore entirely. Okay, it's
I
just
didn't.
not
I'm saying it
the laws
is
of
the
gravity.
thing.
Hey, Ross, come on, man. It's just
Ross is saying it is the thing, relative density is the thing, blah blah blah. Well, we've shown countless times. It's not the thing. Here, this is relative density when it's connected to the earth. Buoyancy and density. Ping pong ball is floating, has an upward pressure. Soon as it's put into free fall, wallop, instantly. This magic buoyancy, this push that you would feel, goes instantaneously. If it was relative density, the ping pong ball would stay where it was and that would stay on the bottom. But it doesn't. It's so fucking irritating that you need to keep repeating this stuff.
something that is not the cause of gravity. It's not something you can just ignore it. In order to calculate the actual dynamics for how objects move, especially when you're talking about buoyancies and in mediums, you do have to account for these things. But that's not where you're getting the direction and acceleration of motion from alone. You have to use gravity in order to get the right value. And this is high school level physics. I mean, you should know this.
Okay, so then why does a feather fall at the same rate as a bowling ball inside of a vacuum?
Because they're both in the Earth's gravitational field, which is warping and curving the space around them.
No, it's not. The reason the bowling ball and the feather fall is for this same scenario. Is the Earth's motion is there, right? And we've got a feather, we've got a bowling ball, right? Both truly stationary. Now as this comes into contact with it and pushes them, if there's no air here and we let them go, they both lose momentum equally. They're not going in that direction. They're both still going upwards, but they're now both losing that speed that they had equally. If you then introduced air, the air being pushed upwards by the reference frame would give a buoyant effect, would give resistance to the feather and would push the feather along with it. Whereas it cannot push the bowling ball upwards. So the bowling ball keeps losing its speed until the bowling ball is met by the solidity of the earth. Now the earth can push on the bowling ball while the feather's still up here in the air because the air's pushing up on it. The air can't push up on the bowling ball anymore. Because the bowling ball's too dense. It's that simple. It's like, how else could I explain this? If you had somebody running, right, at 15 miles an hour, and I ran past them at 20 miles an hour with, you know, a bit of air scooting out of me, then the air would hardly be able to push them any faster. If I now ran past them with something solid sticking out from me and the solid thing impacted them, it's going to push them both up to the speed that I'm going at. It's the same here. It's the same scenario.
They both will be experiencing the same curvature of space-time, aka the same gravity. So they will have the same acceleration.
No, true gravity is the resistance. True gravity is the loss of momentum due to this background membrane that people call gravity, dark matter, dark energy, ether. Right? It's that's responsible for the equal loss of momentum of matter. That's what true gravity is. True gravity is the resistance of matter to motion.
And yet, if we drop them
around them, that's being affected.
And yet, if we drop them in the medium of air, they fall at different rates.
Because of air resistance. I mean, come on, that's so obvious.
Right, so resistance is a force.
Yeah, no, duh. You obviously have air resistance that's slowing you down and changing your acceleration. Nobody's going to argue against that.
Okay, gotcha. Well, see, my argument is that resistance is the force, the only force.
Well, it's
attraction
wrong.
is not necessary. Attraction is not necessary. It's not required. All that is required is a force of resistance to prevent something from falling. That something will fall indefinitely until a force of resistance prevents it from dropping.
So Ross thinks there's a universal falling. If the Earth wasn't here, imagine that the Earth was removed from us right now. Ross thinks that you and I would go down the way indefinitely. How utterly ludicrous is that? He thinks there's just a universal down, constant down somewhere that's acting continuously. It's ridiculous.
So how do you explain the actual measured force of attraction?
Thank you. I was only thinking for seconds.
So then how do you explain the actual measurement of a force of attraction in Newton between mass and the Cavendish experiment?
All right, let's give Ross some space to answer there.
No force of attraction is all I'm saying. There's a force of resistance, there's no force of attraction, apart from things like magnetic and electrostatics.
Forces are pushes. If an object moves, it's being pushed by something.
So forth. But there's no necessary force of attraction in order to have a universal and observable up and down, which is all described by relative density.
No, it's not, Ross. Universal ups and downs. A minute ago he's asserted that we would just keep going down indefinitely. There is no up and down or orientation. They're coordinate systems relative to us within the reference frame. So to us within a reference frame, we say, oh, up, and we say down, right? Because that's how visually we're observing things. There only is one true vector, and that's up the way. Down is only a visual effect. So when we let an object go, that object is now losing its speed that it had going up the way and slows down. Still going up the way. As we now move past it, it looks to us like it's going down. There is no down. It's only a visual orientation coordinate system, not a physical one.
Well, so then how do you explain, I showed you the experiment, I literally just showed it to you, where it was showing you, just for your eyes, the measurement of an attractive force. Are you just going to look at the evidence as I'm presenting it to you and just say, nuh-uh, it doesn't exist?
What's this? What's your parlour tricks got to do with the vector and how things are in the physical world, Grayson? Because it's like comparing apples and oranges. I could just say, look at magnets, look at how magnets behave. So therefore, Earth's a magnet. What's that got to do with any, Grayson? Nothing.
I don't see anything, even though
This is part of the sophistry of the globe Earth. Taking parlour tricks and trying to superimpose them over the top of a topic to try and make a point. That's not how it works in reality, Grayson, son. Only works like that in your religion, your religious nonsense, mate.
eyes are showing you?
Pretty much, yeah.
So what your eyes are showing you? Right, alright. So 2 train tracks that do that into the distance then. I have to now believe because that's what my eyes are showing me. My eyes are showing me that 2 parallel lines are now converging with distance. So according to these fuckwits, then anything that we perceive visually, we've just to accept that that's the way it is because that's how we see it. When in reality we know that 2 parallel lines don't converge physically. This is the difference between optics and physics. If we were only to go by optics, then you end up with the globe Earth shenanigans and stationary Earth gibberish about downwards and stuff. Because that's how it looks. Well, you know, I don't see you saying that about train tracks converging in the distance. Because that's how it appears. So by your reasoning, parallel lines now converge to a point at the distance somewhere. Because that's how your eyes see it. Absolute fucking numbskulls.
Wow. Okay, so then it's just sticking your head in the sand and denying reality.
And they go for a push. Let me bring this back here. Be back in a second. Right. Any questions so far while I'm here? Going by visual phenomena alone is not enough, and exactly. But when it suits these people, you know, as I say, they want to assert these types of things. You know, oh look, visually that goes down, so therefore that's the end of the matter. Or visually right now, you know, I'm higher than the shelves behind me. Right now, visually, you know, I'm higher than the shelves behind me. Any questions? No, Jack, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. They do not have a clue what they're talking about. So what you're saying is you're right and the rest of the world of science is wrong, right, Jim Robinson? No worries, here's Jim Robinson with his appeal to fucking nonsense, because Jim Robinson's too thick to use his own fucking mind and actually come to the table and discuss the topic. Jim Robinson's a little cult member that wants to see what his priests and his preachers have said, just like any other religion. Now but the priests all agree. All the priests and all the congregation all agree in my religion. So you saying that they're all wrong? Yes, I'm saying they're all wrong, that's correct. Yes, Jim. Sorry about that, you fucking clown. Come and say it to my face, Jim Robinson, you wee fucking fanny Dan. I dare ye. Internet hard man. Come and say it to my face. You fucking dweeb. You absolute cult lunatic. My priests have all said so, and the congregation all agrees, so therefore it's correct. What an argument. What a rational position you have there, Jim. Fucking bum sniffer ye. Absolute fucking ignorant cretin. Internet hard man, aye. Always the same. Oh, the email address is there. Come in and fucking state your nonsense. Come in here, rip the absolute piss right out of you. Hurry up. Fucking imbeciles.
No, not really. So are you going to address any of the things that I brought up in my introduction now, since we've pretty much worked audios to death? And are you going to discuss...
Ross,
No, and you're going to explain... No,
we haven't actually talked about what I brought up in my presentation. I talked about
It's
gravitational...
been all you. It's been all you, mate.
Ross, I brought up gravitational redshift, which we haven't talked about. We barely talked about LIGO. We spent this whole time talking about stuff you wanted to talk about, like relative densities. That was your presentation.
All right. Let's be fair then. If that's how you feel, I'll give you the ball, Grayson, to move us into something you brought up in your intro, and we'll try to unpack that. All right.
Okay. So I would like an explanation for gravitational redshift from Ross, where you actually have a difference in the passage of time based on your height from the ground. Like the lower you are, like time is passing differently for you, and you can measure this. You can predict, you can use GR to predict exactly how many microseconds of a difference it should be, and it comes out exactly as predicted. How do you explain that, Ross, in your relative density model?
To be honest, I've got absolutely no idea what you're talking about. It sounds like absolute pseudoscience to me.
Yep.
And it sounds like something that you make up to try and obscure the fact that if the more you can obscure something and make it look like it's not understandable to the average person, the more you can get away with looking clever without actually ever saying it.
All right. We're doing some meta discussion here. So, Grayson, if you want to take like 15 seconds and explain right quick how this ties into our debate topic tonight, and then we'll give Ross a chance to respond.
Okay, well, I felt that was entirely obvious how this ties into our debate topic. It's a direct measurement of gravity using a prediction from measuring the curvature of space-time, which you are literally
measuring the curvature of space-time, which is a mathematical concept, not a tangible substance. If you're talking about it in regards to like the gridded squares here being the background medium, then as we move through that, right, here at the most compressed parts of it, you're going to get a warping of your grid, right? Up here, it's not a chance to impact it yet. So as the system moves up through this grid, it's going to be slightly less affected up here than it's going to be down here where the more matter actually is. Right? It's as simple as that. But that's for another discussion. Maybe one day one of these imbeciles will be brave enough to step up to the mark and have a discussion instead of opting for this nonsense. But somehow they just seem to keep running away from this option here. I'll have the discussion with you, Grayson. I'll have the discussion with you, Ross. Why don't you step up to the mark?
Measuring in the time dilation effects at a sub-millimeter level. It's not my fault that Ross doesn't understand what was done in this experiment or is not familiar with it. All he's offered so far in response is his own personal incredulity and just saying.
All right, we're back to the meta. All right, let's give it over to Ross to respond, and then Ross, if you want to move into something you brought up in your intro, feel free.
Well, actually, this does segue into something I'm talking about because he's mentioning the theory of relativity, and this theory of relativity was absolutely brought into existence to explain why we can't detect any motion of the Earth. Now, I'd like to know why, with the motion of the Earth being 1/3 times the speed of sound, just on its axis.
And by the way, you know, when he's bringing up the warping and bending of space-time, that's in regards to planetary things, how they affect each other, not us in the reference frame and our, you know, pressure gradient and all that stuff. It's totally different. So he's just interlacing two different theories to two different aspects.
Happening about 10 times faster than a railgun projectile when our orbital speed, our second slowest speed, is how does objects falling downwards, 9.8 meters per second squared, going so many times further fast sideways in order to create the illusion of falling straight down. How do you explain that just using gravity? Like, it's actually projecting things forwards and backwards at different speeds relative to every position on the Earth. Every single one must be unique. How does gravity, force of attraction of bigotry, explain that? Especially when something is in front of our orbital speed would mean it's actually being repelled away from the Earth as the Earth is racing into it to create the illusion it's dropping in exactly the same rate as something on the back side of the Earth, go in the opposite direction, as I explained when I used my diagram.
I think that it's just fundamentally you not understanding the conservation of momentum.
Obviously.
No, like, it is kind of obvious, at least from what I'm understanding of what you're, like, I'm trying to wrap my head around what your issue even is. It seems like
I'm trying to wrap my head around the fucking nonsense gibberish that both of you are offering up here.
Don't understand that when things move, everything on the Earth is moving.
Have we seen any physics from any of these people so far? No. All we have is religious nonsense, word salads. Because both of them are coming from the position of interpretation, ideas, concepts, not physics. Both of their positions is not backed by physical demonstration. This is what happens to you when you ignore reality and opt for a religious position, a belief. You start to sound as lunatic as these two. Right? Total lunacy. But there's no physics here. They don't have any.
Like, together. So it all starts out having that same starting point of initial momentum. So the forces that are different are what's going to cause the differential movements, and it's going to be attracted to the center of gravity of Earth. So I don't understand what you're not understanding about that.
Nobody understands that gibberish that you just spewed there, Grayson.
Well, let's just use an aeroplane as an example. This was actually a debate I was going to be doing with somebody else today, but I don't know what happened to the guy. It's a pilot. I was going to bring up the fact that if you took off with the momentum of the Earth towards the east, so if you take off from the east, you're already going 1,000 miles per hour. You add 500 miles per hour, just rounded figure. So you're going 1,500 miles per hour. Now, if you turned around and did a 180 and started traveling west, that would now mean that you're traveling backwards 1,000 miles per hour as you're going forwards 500 miles per hour. So you're actually going backwards of some total of 500 miles per hour in order to create the illusion you're going forwards 500 miles per hour. That's ridiculous. Now, Occam's razor.
You would just be going 500 miles an hour in the reverse direction. So what are you talking about? Like,
What's that?
I understand. I literally. So what you're saying? The plane initially takes off and it's going in the same direction of Earth's movement, right?
Yeah, 1,500 miles an hour.
So if it initially had, you said what, 1,000 miles per hour is your initial, and then it's moving at 500 miles an hour to the east, right? That was your start, right?
Yeah. Some total of 1,500.
At that point, the plane is moving 500 miles an hour to the east, okay?
1,500.
No, 500. It's starting at 500 because
It's starting at 1,000.
Because the ground and the plane were both moving at 1,000 feet per second, and now they're still moving at 1,000 feet per second. And the plane is now moving 500 on top of that. So relative to the ground, the plane is moving at 500 miles per hour.
Yes, relative to the ground, Grayson, yes. But in your model, overall, it would be moving 1,500 miles an hour. And as he's trying to point out to you, now you go the opposite direction. What happens in your stupid, idiotic concept model, Grayson?
Yeah, but his real speed would have to be 1,500
No,
miles
there's no
per
such
hour.
thing as real speed. Speed is absolute.
No.
So it's relative. Speed relative to the ground is 500. So now what's your problem with the plane going in the other direction?
So this is the problem, is you have to deny reality and say that speed
At what point would it lose its initial momentum then, Grayson? Is the question he's asking. If it turned around and went opposite to the spinning globe Earth nonsense, at what point would it cancel out its initial 1,000 miles an hour? It's still moving 1,000 miles an hour, the opposite direction that it's actually travelling. Is that going to be your answer, Grayson? Aye, probably.
real.
No, speed is relative. That's just a fact.
Well, not really.
But
You know, like, if you...
I'm sorry, Ross, but that's just a basic fact. Like elementary school.
All right then. Well, let's try another example. Maybe this will be a bit easier for you. A skydiver jumps from a plane.
Yep.
Are you going to say that he's going to continue to retain the inertial speed of...
Join a movement that's been fighting for trees for over 50 years. Join more than...
the plane as he jumps from it? And so
No,
he's going
because
to
there's going to be
continue
wind
flying.
resistance.
So there's wind resistance. So
The wind resistance slows him down, yes.
But the wind resistance of the Earth is still keeping him going 1,000 miles per hour he took up with in the first
The wind
place.
is rotating with the Earth, Ross.
But
So how's the wind resistance then?
It's going all different directions, different speeds, different heights.
What if the wind's going the same direction as the plane? And the person jumps out of it? That's what he's asking, Grayson.
Because there's...
It starts to get totally nonsensical, because this guy's model is just as nonsensical as this guy's model. So it all starts to get lost in translation, because the two of them are just talking absolute fucking gibberish.
differences in pressure that cause wind, like internally.
Yeah.
Overall, the atmosphere is rotating with the Earth.
That's nonsense. We couldn't have
That's not
winds if
nonsense.
that's the
That's
case.
a fact.
We couldn't have winds if that is the case.
That's not true. You have differences in pressure that are caused by the sun differentially heating parts of the Earth.
But the air at the top of the atmosphere would have to be moving faster than the air at the surface of the Earth. Whoopsie. Whoopsie. All the air's moving at the speed of the Earth. But anybody that's been on a roundabout knows that as you move out to the outer circumference of the roundabout, you're moving faster than you would be at the centre. So, by the same way your air on your cartoon globe Earth, the higher up you go, the air must be moving quicker than the air closer to the surface of the Earth. So shut up, Grayson.
Earth as it rotates.
Or it could be just the sun moving around above us that's causing that as well.
Nope.
Yes, that works equally as well. And in fact, it's far more sensible, because if we consider a tropical storm, for example, a cyclone, winds that reach a speed of, say, 175 miles per hour.
See how now we're talking about winds and all, man, we've started off with gravity, which is, you know, the orientation, the buoyancy and density, pressure gradients, yada yada, and now we're talking about fucking winds and jumping out of aeroplanes. I mean,
Absolutely destructive. They'll destroy villages, forests, plantation, totally wipe things out. And yet perfectly still air is going 1,000 miles per hour. So this wind is going barely a fifth the speed of perfectly still air.
I just don't think that you're understanding what relative speeds are. Like the speed.
Obviously not, because I only believe in real speeds.
it's easy to understand, Ross. If you're in a train, a bullet train doing fucking 300 miles an hour, the air in the bullet train is going 300 miles an hour, right? It's no, you know, going against the train. Grayson's trying to explain that to you. However, in Grayson's worldview, the further away from the ground you get, the higher up you go, you have to be travelling faster. So the air at the top of the globe Earth has to be travelling faster than the air at the bottom of the globe Earth. Or the air at the ground, I should say.
There's no such thing as real speed relative to what? What's your reference point, Ross?
Well, the ground.
But if the
ground
ground
is
is
my
moving,
reference point.
then there's no such. It's all relative.
Yeah, but the ground isn't moving. We've got no method of detection. You cannot demonstrate that it is moving.
Yes, I can. I can demonstrate that the ground's moving. That's what's causing your density gradient, your pressure gradient, Ross. You can witness that when you let things go in free fall. When the earth can no longer act upon the stuff, then it all ceases. It's very, very simple. That's why an accelerometer's showing you that the earth's motion is present. Drop an accelerometer and it goes to zero. Why does, if an accelerometer was being accelerated downwards, then in free fall it should register that acceleration. But it doesn't. Only registers it when it's connected to the earth, showing you that it's the earth's motion, Ross. The thing that these people get hung up on is that the globe earth's claim of rotation, there's no experiment to detect rotation of the earth because it's not rotating. But you can detect its motion, its linear motion. That's a fact.
We can't.
No, you cannot. You have never had.
We can use a ring laser gyroscope. We can show that it's moving. You know, we can.
And that exactly talks about the very
observations.
Anything that spins processes. Spin anything and it will not stay central to its axis point. It drifts. Anything that you spin has that effect. Anything. Again, Grayson is just ignorant.
You can look at observations in the sky that show that the Earth is revolving around the sun.
That just shows that those things are moving. As you said, it's all relative. From the point of view of the Earth, that's
this argument that you're making right here is basically just that. Well, listen. Okay, you could say that that I drove my car 60 miles per hour down my street, or you could just say that the entire universe moved at 60 miles per hour around my car that stood still. And
exactly, and which is the most sensible argument.
Technically, those are mathematically and physically equivalent situations. But everybody would laugh at you and call you silly if you tried to say one versus the other, and that's Ross's strategy right now.
That's your strategy, because you are saying that's exactly what it is.
I need to take a break, man. It's fucking tiring. Jeez, oh. Quite tiring. There's only so much stupid you can take in one sitting. Oh, yeah. Oh dear. You know, see, as long as flares keep that up, that sort of nonsense, I guarantee you that this is as far as it's ever going to go. You know, flares that keep repeating stationary earths with buoyancy and density and yada yada, then you're pissing in the wind. It's over. I'm going to tell you right now, that's as far as you're ever going to get. If you're out there right now professing and claiming that the earth's a stationary plane, you've got a faulty worldview, and this is as far as you're ever going to get. It's over. If you keep this up like Ross, it's over. Ross is sitting there verbatim making the very same claim as a globe earther. Too much derp. Exactly, our shipbear. Water seeks level, the mantric statement. But why does water displace down in order to seek level? Exactly. These people, you know, if you listen to people like Peter and Peter, well, water's a mass, and just because it's a mass, it just goes down. And you'll hear that from Ross soon. It just is because that's the way it is. No, just saying, Lucy, that these people are real. The stupidity is very, very real. Unfortunately, you know, I know that it's that stupid that it would lend you to think that these people are, you know, deliberately at it. But this is what stupidity does to you. This is what beliefs do to you. Beliefs and stubbornness and ego are going to end up making you sound like Ross and Grayson. They're genuine in their beliefs, but their beliefs are fucking absurd. I know they say it's moving faster, Andy. That's why I was highlighting it. That's why I was highlighting it. Aye, but that's the problem, Jacques. Jacques wrote, if only the stationary believers could just admit it might be stationary, or it might be in motion, or it might be gravity on a sphere, very close-minded. Yes, and it's fine for people to take these positions, but as I keep reiterating, you have to qualify your position through physics. Physics does not support any of these people's positions whatsoever. Let's just try and get through this, because there's some absolute zingers still to come up.
Whereas I'm trying to say, when I finally finish saying this point about the storm, is that the storm is actually rotating in a circular fashion, whether it's be anti-clockwise or clockwise, depending on which side of the equator it is on. How is that possible then, that the entire thing is drifting 5 times faster with the speed of the Earth? Plus then also, let's not ignore the orbital speed, which is a massive, massive speed that you say this is also going. I guess you're just going to handwave dismiss this as relative as well. But let's just
obviously, that's the fact.
Let's just assume we'll ignore the orbital speed for now. We're just going to deal with the rotational speed on its axis, you know, of 1,000 miles per hour. These 200 mile per hour winds are causing utter destruction, and yet they're moving in a circular pattern, going the same speed around the epicenter of the storm, and yet it's also drifting sideways with this around the...
And that it's not the rest of the universe that's moving, it's not the sun or the galaxies that are
I'm
moving.
not talking about the universe,
really what's happening.
I'm talking about the storm and the Earth.
Come on, don't interrupt me.
Hold
on. One second, Ross. One second. I don't want to put you on mute. Just give Grayson a second here. Just hold your
I'm
thought.
just liking to keep it relevant to the
Alright,
argument.
don't interrupt me. Like I said, just give him a space, and you absolutely will have some time to respond.
You're saying it's not relevant, but you were the one who told me that I am the one in my analogy saying that the rest of the universe is moving around my car and my car is actually standing still. I'm only illustrating the analogy here. The car is the Earth. You're saying the Earth is standing still and the rest of the universe is moving around the stationary Earth. But in reality, that's you saying your car is standing still and the rest of the universe is moving at 60 miles per hour around your car. That's the analogy. That's why you're doing it and not me. I just wanted to make that point clear.
No, we're talking about a storm here now. Yeah, try and stick to the topic. I'm talking about a storm rotating at maximum speeds of 200 miles per hour around an epicenter, which would mean that part of that storm is actually only moving about 800 miles per hour because of the spin of the Earth beneath it. The other side of the Earth, other side of the storm is moving 1,200 miles per hour. Relative to the Earth, only moving 200.
Is being done. Is the relative wind speed
through the Earth, through the air, through the atmosphere, as though the air is perfect.
I'm just skirting it here.
It is all logical and intuitive. Your whole fill, and will fill the entire container surrounding them, given the available time.
Let's address that, because you did bring it up in your opening. So first of all, completely incorrect. Whenever you have an actual, like a canister or the atmosphere itself, as you go up in height, in elevation, the density of the air goes down, and everybody can agree with this. It's a basic fact.
So density. Okay, cool.
Yes, and so as you go higher and higher and higher, the density of the air gets less and less and less and less and less as it asymptotically approaches zero.
Yes, and we can show you how that's done. Just like this. This is how you get pressure gradients. Because you're in a moving reference frame. Boom. The apple stayed where it was. The air can't push the apple to push it forwards, so the apple visually appears to go backwards, but it doesn't. The apple just stayed where it was, because the air couldn't push it forwards. but the air can now push on the helium balloon. So what's been created here is a pressure gradient. Oh, look at that. We can recreate it. Not only can we recreate it in the right hand direction, we can also do it left, down, diagonal, any direction you want, 360 degrees. Do you know why? Because we are telling the truth. We are showing you physics. This is reality. The stuff these people are rattling on about is nonsense. This is how pressure gradients are created. This is the antecedent. It's motion. Motion is force. Force is motion. No need for all this palaver. The only reason we have this palaver is because he's an incompetent religious moron, and so is he. Both incompetent religious morons with faulty worldviews doing battle against each other to see whose derp is more derpier than the other. Isn't it wonderful to be alive? Are you not proud of your brothers and sisters? Fuck me.
And you never have a situation like you falsely painted at the beginning of your opening, where you said that in the atmosphere you have a point of high pressure and a point of low pressure, and for some reason they're just not mixing, even though that's physically what would happen, because you have a gradient, and you can measure the gradient. Right now, everyone at home can measure the gradient in the atmosphere. You can literally, like...
Yes, Grayson. Can you create a gradient in another vector, Grayson, with your gravity hypothesis? Can you, Grayson? No, you bloody well cannot. Why can you not, Grayson? That's because you're special pleading on the one vector that you're superimposing your worldview over and trying to bastardise it to make it fit your worldview. You cannot isolate it. You cannot invert it. You cannot do diddly squat, son. All you have is a simple optical observation, and there you go, wandering off into fucking la la land with absolute nonsense, not supported by anything. Ross and Grayson, you're challenged. Demonstrate your worldview, your physics in a different vector other than the down. Go for it. Let's see it. Recreate your gravity. Recreate your stationary Earth. Show us how it works. That's how we qualify things, by demonstrating things to each other. Now, demonstrate it for us. Chop chop.
App on your phone, measure the density of atmosphere at the bottom of your room and at the top, and you can measure a difference. It's less dense the higher you go.
Grayson's all full of false confidence because he's got answers for these things, but Grayson can't come up against somebody like me because I would absolutely wipe the floor with him. And he knows it, which is why he never came back. When the offer was there for Grayson to have the discussion, and he ran away. Because he's a disingenuous, lying little toad. And I'll tell you that to your face, Grayson, if you dare have the balls to sit in front of me. Far as I see it right now, you're nothing but a liar, son. Test yourself. Come and speak to me. Let's see how you get on.
Are you kidding me?
That's a fact.
That's a fact.
Yes, you
In a
can measure
room.
results.
In a room.
Yep.
I thought you said get a room. I was gonna say with the theory, what's going on here? I want to just inject right
It's
quick.
easily measurable. I mean, I would highly encourage everybody, like, get a barometer app on your phone.
Yes, everybody can test that there's a less pressure the higher up you go. Right? Now we need to understand what causes that. Dipshit here's got a fucking religious explanation, and so is this one. The challenge is out there. Now recreate this physics. Demonstrate how you create a pressure gradient with your gravity or with your whatever your derp is, relative density nonsense, stationary pish. Demonstrate it.
One has a barometer built into it. It can measure pressure differences, and you can measure the pressure at the bottom of your room and at the top, and you'll see that there's a slightly less amount of pressure at the top of your room.
Well, I was just trying to inject before you reiterated. I put a poll up earlier. So is gravity a hoax? 24% has voted yes. 68% voted no.
No, the reality of the physical world is not a hoax. What's a hoax is the interpretations of it. And you can highlight and tear apart these interpretations by simply referring to physics and asking them to qualify their positions by use of practical physics. So reality is not a hoax. Physics is not a hoax. It's these religious people that are perpetuating a hoax interpretation of physical reality.
And then 7% said, Gravity Backwards is my org name. How many of you did I get to say Ytabark? Anyway, go ahead and continue on. But that's our poll right now, so 24 to 68. And then we got our...
What a fucking dweeb.
Answer. So, yeah, that's hopefully helps reset the tone. But go ahead there, Ross. I'll give you a chance to respond.
Right, cheers. So we could use a similar example in a swimming pool. The bottom of the pool has a greater pressure gradient, but that's simply due to the volume of the water above you pressing down upon you. And as you get higher and higher towards the surface, it decreases. No, it's just because of the density of the water itself.
Just because of the density of the water, right? Okay. So again, let me just draw this out for you. Ross here, it's the density of the water. You heard them. You heard them. Right? Right. Let's say we've got a crane here and we've got a crane here. Right? Now these two cranes are now supporting a tank of water. Right? We've got water here. Now, as this is still attached to the cranes, yes, as we get to here, we feel an increase in pressure. Up here, there's less pressure. If you took a cubic centimetre of water from here and a cubic centimetre of water from here, there would be no difference of the density, volume, nothing would be any different. Okay? Now, if you're here at the bottom and you're feeling pressure, bigger pressure than you did up here, and then we release that into free fall. Instantaneously, there is no pressure gradient anymore. The pressure's equal in every part of the body of water. The pressure goes instantaneously, vanishes. Because the only reason there is a pressure and a pressure gradient is because when it's attached to the earth, and the earth's moving upwards relative to us, the inertia of all this mass causes a compression where it's trying to remain stationary. As soon as that force, the motion of the earth as we detach this, is no longer felt, the air can't push up on it like the solid earth could, and instantaneously the pressure ceases. Whoopsie, oh dear. Oh no, what about that, lads?
It's just a volume of the water and the density of the water that creates that gradient.
Well, in this scenario, Ross, the volume doesn't change, the density doesn't change, the volume's not changed, nothing has changed. But when I put that in free fall, the pressure that you're claiming, or that we know that you experience here that's different to up here, vanishes. But the volume's no changed, the density's no changed. Weird that, Ross, is it not? Very, very strange. In your worldview, the pressure should still be the same, but it bloody well isn't, son. And Grayson's trying to tell you, gravity, because the globe earth knows they've got one up on you, they know they need an external force. You don't even comprehend that, son, because you've listened to too much flirt nonsense. As I said at the beginning of this journey, don't run away from the globe earth, pay attention, analyse what they're talking about. Don't just jump into a cult and think that everything they're saying is nonsense, because it's not all nonsense. They know they have to account, and he's trying to highlight it for you, and you keep ignoring it.
Why is it pressing down on you, Ross? You said that the water is pressing down. Why is it pressing down?
Because of the volume of the water and the density. Now, if you're done interrupting,
Right, and Grayson's asking why is it pressing down, and he again You heard it clearly. I'm not making it up. The density of the water and the volume of the water. Back to my scenario. Nothing changes other than I just disconnect it from there. Now it's in free fall, and the pressure in here vanishes in a fucking instant. So it's no the density of the water, it's no the volume of the water, Ross. Sorry, mate.
Finish my
I'm
point.
not done interrupting. Why down?
Because of the weight of water. It
Oh, no.
has density and weight, and then the volume of it determines how much pressure it is putting upon you. Yes, that is
Why
what
go way
physics.
down?
You just heard that. He's uncomfortable because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Again, I'm just going to keep going back. Nothing changed in this scenario. Other than now it's no longer connected to the earth by the cranes. When it's back connected, bang, pff, pressure, higher pressures here, lower pressure here. Volume, density, never changed. Then all we simply do is remove it from the solid earth and instantaneously the pressure vanishes. How come, Ross? He's just contradicting himself. He's digging himself into a hole. This is what I warned about. Stationary flares. Pay attention. Pay very close attention.
All about
Why down?
because it's physical and everything needs a base
Up
to be
is
built
physical
upon.
too. Left and
See,
right.
you know what he's asking, why down? And his response, everything needs a base and stuff. What does that even mean? What are you talking about, Ross? Now he's just floundering because he's getting backed into a corner, and this is going to happen more and more and more as these globe earthers, like vultures, predators, jumping on weak prey, they're going to pounce on it. And Ross is floundering now.
Physical, why down?
Yeah, because that's the way it works.
Oh, because
What?
that's just the way it is.
That's the way it works. I mean, there you go. Why down? Why is that orientated like that? Just because that's just the way it is. So we don't need to ask questions about anything anymore according to Ross's reasoning. Because when Ross is backed into a corner and knows that he's wrong, rather than addressing that with honesty, he comes out with an idiotic statement like that. It just is. Why does a knife cut your skin? It just does. Why does it hurt when I drop things in my foot? It just does. Why does fire burn stuff? It just does. How does an internal combustion engine work? It just does. See how ridiculous this is?
Don't know how to explain it. Even though gravity
I
explains
explained it to
very
you.
well.
I explained it to you with acoustics, how we have higher notes and lower notes are more bass. In physics, we need a bass. Everything depends upon a bass. You
So,
can't-
so now he's grasping at musical scales. It's totally separate thing altogether. Just like Grayson was doing with his Cavendish, trying to superimpose something else over the topic that's got no relation to it whatsoever, in order for his ego to try and stay in the battle. But that's what's happening here. Ross's ego is now in fight or flight mode. And you can tell because he's just offering up utter shit.
build a house without a base. The base is the bottom. The earth is the bottom of the universe. That's how physics works.
Brilliant.
The Earth's the bottom of the universe, that's how physics works. I mean, this is why I said I don't want to have anything to do with these people anymore. I don't want to be associated with them in any way, shape or form. This is the weakest of the weak. It just does, and everything needs a base, and the Earth's the base of the universe, therefore things go to the base. Wow. Fucking wow is all I can say. Stationary flares, if you're not reeling and alarm bells are not ringing in your mind, then you are beyond help. You are the fucking problem, I'm afraid.
You're just
Used
doing.
to.
You're literally
But
doing.
now, no, I'll give you a chance in a second, Jake. I'll give you a making my point because we're going back to the atmosphere now. While we have a pressure
let's take
gradient
10
in
seconds.
air,
All right, just to be fair, Ross, let's take 10 seconds to wrap this up, and we'll hand it back to Grayson.
I'm trying to.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
trying to. I'm nearly there. And it's the same sort of thing happens in the medium of air. We have a pressure gradient due to the volume of air above us. It's a finite amount of air, so the higher we go, the less air there is on you, so therefore less pressure.
Yeah, when, again, if I've got a helium balloon in a vessel, let me go, let me see here, I'll show Williams one, let me just get to Williams. Helium balloon, stretching the spring, buoyancy, air's pushing the helium balloon up. Oh dear, where did the buoyant effect go, Ross? Where's your magical air pushing stuff down and stuffs? Eh?
Okay, so this was the exact point that I was making in my introduction, where ultimately the flat earthers don't have an explanation for why gravity is downward.
Yes, I do, Grayson. Gravity is not downwards. There is no down physically, Grayson. The vector is demonstrably upwards. I've got an answer for you, Grayson. Why don't you come and have a discussion with me, son?
They just have to assume the direction is down and beg the question to start with. And when I asked Ross...
So do you. You beg the question and assume there's the down. And you're acting all smug because you've got somebody just as weak as you. And you feel good about yourself. This is what I warned Flairfs about. This is what they're warning you about. Look at the smugness.
Why he started doing stream of consciousness word associations of saying, well, look, base over here, it sounds the same as this word base, even though they have two different definitions in different contexts. Because they're homophones, I'm just going to say that they both mean the same thing, and it's some sort of cosmic pattern that the base requires the base, and that's why down. It's literally just meaningless gobbledygook.
Yep.
It's just word association.
Totally agree, 100%, Grayson. 100% agree. That's exactly what it was.
From things that don't know the science.
There's no such thing as coincidence. There's a reason why these words have the same thing. It's the reason why the word compass also means the instrument used to draw a circle, or also the same instrument that magnetically points towards the center of the circle. You know, it's how we draw our maps in the first place, why the sun is all encompassing. You know, we use words for a very specific reason, even if we've lost the current usage, the origins, where they came from us in epistemology. Basically, there's no such thing as coincidence. The base is the requirement for how we have everything. There is a universal up and a universal down. And
No, there's not. Another false claim. There is no universal down. Down is a coordinate orientation based in vision. Not a physical thing, Ross.
Everything finds its place according to relative density. You don't have to ask why down.
Everything finds...
And it's just there. A child understands intuitively the moment it drops something. It's not going to drop up. It's not going to drop sideways. It always drops down.
Yes, but a child would ask why. That's what physics does, asks why. How is it so?
It's just nature. It's the very nature of existence. The very first law of physics is to make the observation, not to start making up nonsense. Why not? Why doesn't it go this way? It doesn't go that way because it's just the law of physics. Everything.
See, it's just a law. It's just this. This isn't a response.
Has a universal downward tendency unless it's lighter than air.
Everything has a universal downwards tendency unless it's lighter than air. The helium in there is lighter than air. It's in a box, going, according to him, down.
So here's the thing, is that in science, we do have an explanation for why things fall down. It's because they're falling towards the mass of the Earth. That's what causes the direction. So it's not like we just have to say, well, look, okay,
No,
descriptive. Wait, don't interrupt me, Ross. Okay, come on. We don't have to just say, oh, well, science is descriptive, and that's just the way it is. It just is down because that's why. Don't ask anything further. Don't ask any questions about why down. That would be problematic because the flat earthers can't answer that. So you just
I can answer it.
have to say, look, it just is the way it is. We have no explanation for why, even though the other science with gravity can perfectly explain why very, very easily. It offers that.
And that's what I've been trying to explain to Flares. They have an explanation. They are smart enough to account for it in their model. Flares have listened to a mantric statement, stationary Earth. Now they're coming unstuck. Because you need an external factor that they don't have.
Explanatory power. But the alternatives, the relative density, the electromagnetic gravity, like none of these stuff can explain why the direction is downward. And that is why they cannot explain gravity and why their explanation for gravity utterly fails and why gravity follows general relativity. We know it quite well. We can make the predictions and they can't.
I can make predictions. I can make very accurate predictions. Not only that, I can change my variables and I can invert it in any direction, Grayson. You canny, son. Oh dear. Whoopsie.
Well, your explanation is nothing more than an assumption, an unproven assumption, which has
So's yours.
been proven wrong by the Tamarack Mine mysteries and similar. And so anything that is, that Occam's razor says that everything using assumptions can be dismissed, where the more simple explanation is...
You're making loads of assumptions. I don't need to make any assumptions. I can just demonstrate it physically with no assumptions whatsoever. It's a fact. It's a fact. There you go. What you're witnessing here, Ross, is force creating a density gradient. And you know which way the force is acting, depending on which way the air goes. Oh, look at that. Amazing. Physics is brilliant.
Easily explains it as due to relative density. Is that if the medium is insufficiently dense to give resistance to it, then the thing will sink. If it's sufficient to give resistance to it, it will float. And if the thing itself is lighter than the medium, it will rise upwards, like the basketball at the bottom of the swimming pool.
I got a question for you then. Why is it you're saying that, look, if the thing beneath it is sufficiently dense to support it, then it won't fall. And if it's not, then it will go through. So why does it matter the thing beneath it? Why doesn't it matter how dense the thing above it is? If the thing above it is less dense, why doesn't it just fall up?
Because the less dense thing does not give resistance force to give it buoyancy.
But why not?
Because of the lack of resistance from its density.
Wait. So the thing doesn't provide resistance because of the lack of resistance? Circular a bit much?
Yes.
It's circular reasoning, Ross.
Well, it's not.
You're saying that it's important the density of the thing below the object because it can offer resistance because it's beneath it. But why can't the thing above it offer resistance or support? Why does the support or resistance only matter if it's below it and not above it or to the left and right? Because it's about relative density, right?
Yeah, because it lacks the density. Because everything has already organized itself according to density, and it organizes itself from the bottom up.
Okay.
Organises itself. You know, matter organises itself. What a fucking crock of shite, man. This is fucking really bad.
We have a circular ball, right?
This is where Grayson has been paying attention. Anybody that's been watching will know that where Grayson's get this part from.
And we have equal density in every single direction. The medium is equally dense in every direction for 50 miles. Which way is the object going to move?
Say again, what?
If you have an object, right, like a lead ball, and it's
about
by a medium that's equal density in every single direction for like a long time,
Are you
which
talking about
direction are you going to move?
Are you talking about air?
It doesn't matter what the medium is. It could be air, it could be water, it could be oil, whatever.
Well, if the medium is mercury, it's just going to float.
See, Ross is just avoiding because he knows that he's getting up against it here. So what Grayson's saying is what we've highlighted here. Say you've got a vessel, right? And in this vessel you've got oil, and the density is equal in every bit of this. And then you place a lead ball in here, right? Right at the very centre, right? And it's equal density surrounding it. What Grayson's saying is, why does it still appear to go down? Why does it not go in any other direction? Why does it go that way? What's telling it that it's to go there? Because it's nothing to do with the density of the medium. The density is equal in every direction.
It depends on the relative densities. Okay, this is a very heavy lead ball, but it doesn't matter whatever medium you want, dude. Like, we could do water, we could do air.
So not mercury?
For fuck's sake.
It doesn't matter. Just pick a medium.
Well, if I say mercury, I'll say it's going to float.
A lead ball floats in mercury.
Well, an iron one will. The lead one will probably assimilate.
I don't care what the medium is, man. Accept the situation and ask me if it's a uniform density in all direction, and it's the density differences that determine the motion that it'll have. And let's just say the medium is air. You have a lead ball that's introduced. What direction is it going to go?
It will go down.
And why will it go down when the density was the same in every direction?
Because air offers no resistance factor, and air is obviously already sitting on some sort of surface that has a resistance factor that's given buoyancy to the air, and it will go down towards that surface. Same as it will in water, but it won't go as fast because water gets...
Pass your practical driving test before the end of summer with National Intensive.
Ross just keeps avoiding. Ross is avoiding because he knows he's cornered.
Because it's more dense than air.
So if we had this experiment, right, and you were looking at it at a camera, and we like rotate the camera so you no longer know which way is down and which way is up, and you just have this lead ball, and it's going to get let go of, and you have to predict which direction it's going to move in, and you can do any kind of density measurements you want, but it's a room that is equal in every direction. It's a cube-shaped room. You don't know which way's up, which way's down. How do you determine which way it's going to move?
Well, obviously, because I know we're not in outer space, because the universe has a base, and that is the plane.
Determine what direction that is. You're saying that it's
the bottom of the main universe. It's always down. Always down.
See what I mean? He's just. This is honestly. See, for people that are aware, this is fucking horrendous. Really, really bad. Ross, mate, I suggest that you fucking stop and let go of your belief, mate, and start again. That's my advice to you, mate. Fucking let it go.
If you're in this room, or you're not in this room, the camera's in this room, and you don't know, you can control this camera, and you have to determine which way this thing is going to move when it's let go of. How do you know? It will tell you which way down is. It will tell you by its own actions, because it's more dense than the air.
By its own actions, see? He thinks matter will just move spontaneously by its own accord. This is, it's so pathetic, people. Really is bad.
Ross, this is science. You have to make a prediction based on your model.
I did. Downwards.
But you don't know which direction that is. Tell me, you're supposed to predict.
I need you to predict.
The ball knows. Ross thinks that in this scenario, the bit of lead in here, it knows it's to go down. Just because. No. Again, if this was in 3D space, equal density, right? I know what way it's going to go. Because see if the force is applied this side, and it's applied and makes it go in that direction, then guess what? That lead ball is going to end up here. If I make it go in that direction, the lead ball is going to end up here. And that applies to any fucking direction, Ross. Because you need the external force acting to dictate where that's going to end up, mate. really pissing me off, these flirts and their utter fucking stupidity.
Ball moves. You need to predict which direction it's going to move, which direction will be down, and we could predict using gravity.
You don't need to make these predictions for your silly hypothetical games, mate. These are your silly hypothetical
He's talking
games.
over the end of my question. You always get on to me for interrupting him, but
All right. If that does sound fair. So
I wanted to get out the end of my question. I just want to ask, if we are using our scientific models to do science and make a prediction, so before this ball is released, I can use my model to make a prediction for which direction it will move and which direction down is based on where the majority of the Earth's mass is relative to this ball. But you need to make a prediction based on the relative densities, and the way we've set up this experiment, it's a equal density in every direction. It's completely symmetrical. You cannot use density differences to make a prediction.
How do you know where the Earth is in this instance?
You would have to have that information. I don't know. You'd have to,
Yeah, well,
either you could do that with like a radar, you could bounce something off of it and determine like through seismology where the Earth is. You'd have to figure out which direction the Earth's mass was relative to the room. I would admit that.
So here in reality, we don't need
Because in Grayson's model, just like I showed, take this bit away. With this scenario, I predict where it's going to be because the force acting externally, right? If it's going in that direction, then I know the lead ball is going to be here, right? Where in Grayson's, right, in this scenario, he thinks that because there's a bigger mass here, this big mass attracts this here, and that's what makes that lead go down. So you've got this magical attractive fucking nonsense again, however that works. Right? The only way for the lead ball to end up here relative to another one is if the force is acting that way. Then the lead ball would end up here. Nothing to do with this. But Grayson imagines that this is attracting this and somehow makes that go down to there because he's a fucking imbecile, just the same as Ross is.
to do all that stuff. We already know that the Earth is going to be downwards. If we're up above the surface of the Earth, it will always be down.
Yes, he's begging the question. Yes, you are.
It's a known thing.
That's a known thing.
If you know something, you don't have to guess. You don't have to predict
here's the thing though,
anything.
is that I'm asking you to predict or to explain why things go down, and you're already just begging the question that they already do. You're not giving an explanation for why.
That's right. I shouldn't have to. I don't need to invent anything new that's already been observed since the beginning of time.
A car's moving along the motorway because it's just cause it is. What Grayson's saying is the explanation, Ross. Like, well, the car's moving along the motorway because of the internal combustion engine. The internal combustion engine works on the principles of push, leverage. So every component within that internal combustion engine is one lever applying pressure to another lever that transfers all the way down to the drive shafts, which drive the hubs, which are connected to the wheels, which applies pressure, and then that pressure is converted as it pushes against the ground, and the car is now propelled along the ground because of the principles of push, the mechanics of motion. Right? That's what he's asking you for, Ross. An explanation. What you're saying is the cars are going along the road just because that's what it does. No, we need to know the details. The intricate mechanisms that achieve these things, Ross. You're just saying it just does.
It's called a begging the question fallacy.
Yes.
And it is a logical fallacy. And by the way, so is the etymological fallacy that you were using earlier about using a word's origin in order to like infer about its meaning. Like, those are both logical fallacies that you're using.
Absolutely not. It's the very reason we have the word gravity is because it comes from the word gravitas, which actually means weight. It does not mean attraction and force due to deity.
Weight, again, is not an intrinsic property of any matter whatsoever, Ross. Weight is not part of matter. It's an effect of motion being applied to matter. Then we get resistance. Okay? Now resistance is caused by whatever is supporting matter, whatever gives rise to matter, the medium that matter occupies, not air. There's something else there.
Doesn't mean bending and warping of space-time. It just simply means weight. And anything that has weight is a weight determined compared to something else. Now, the weight of something in water is less than the same thing as the weight of it in air. So it's all relative density.
But again, you cannot explain why the weight is pushing down instead of
Yes,
up
I can.
to the left or right.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can, because of its density relative to its medium.
Wow.
That's all it matters.
We
Relative density again. But yet we can clearly show in any scenario. Nothing changed about the density of the box inside. The air never changed. The helium balloon was still being pushed upwards. But yet when William lets it go in free fall so that it's no longer connected to him, connected to the earth, wallop. Your magic vanishes, Ross.
If the density is equal in all directions relative to the medium, you still have a weight, but your model cannot explain why.
Again, because it's the weight of the object relative to the medium. The medium is insufficient to give it buoyancy. It's not going to give it buoyancy at all in any direction.
Okay,
It's just
look,
going to knock into a
Ross,
plate
you need to
of
understand
resistance.
this. The relationship with the density is equal up, down, left, right, every direction. You have the same
Exactly.
density relationship. You can't tell just from looking at the densities what direction is down. But it's still, the weight goes down for some reason. And it cannot be because of the density, because that's equal in every direction.
Well, if you're standing on your head, it's dropping up. You know.
See, look, Grayson's made a valid point to him, and he just jumps to some nonsense. Right, that's enough for one day. I'm going to have to do another sitting of this because I just can't take it on one go. It's too much. Too much. It's fucking incredible, man. Absolutely. This is why I had this kind of wee flat spell where I just felt like I needed to get away from it all. Because how can you deal with that sort of fucking ignorance, man? Honestly, that's pull your hair out, you know, ram your face into a fucking meat grinder type fucking stupidity. And the dishonesty when Grayson's making valid points, Ross is dishonestly jumping to nonsense. Oh man. I warned Flairfs, I warned you stationary lot about this. I can only hope that the alarm bells are fucking ringing loud and clear in your mind. William, how you doing, mate? Weight doesn't create motion, motion creates weight. Exactly, William. Sean, nice one. Yes, Angela Baby Carson, I wish all these flairfs, if you're a truth seeker, you should be talking about this. Again, the value of this is priceless. This one aspect is the linchpin for the globe earth model. The globe earth model requires physical downwards acceleration. The stationary flat earth model requires physical downwards acceleration. None of these models have that. Reality is showing you that the force is going that way. Not that way, that way. That's a fact. Demonstrable, repeatable, testable by every single person alive. And you will get the same results every single time. Now, if you're a truther and you're still ignoring that, you're not a truther. You are not a truther. You're a fantasist. You're a dishonest, egotistical, narcissistic fantasist. That's what you are. That's the truth. Hi JC23, I asked my car what makes it move and it told me I just do. Stop asking questions. It's exactly what these people are up to. Yes, Nachiketa, and that's the power of disinformation and liars. They try and tarnish a man's character in order to sway people so that they never pay attention to what's been actually spoken about. And you have to get past that. If you're listening to people who are, calling me names or talking shit about me, you're dealing with deceivers. Flairful is a bit of a cult, it is. And it operates like a cult because they don't have the truth. And, like any other cult, when it's met by rationale, logic, facts, it opts for all manner of avoidance and trying to substitute the facts with word salad and fantasy and yada yada. The globe earthers and the stationary flat earthers are one and the same. I know that people take offence to that, but it's the facts, it's the truth. There's a number being done on people, right? Where they come into this topic hearing statements of, the Flat Earth Society's controlled opposition because they say the Earth's moving up. And I've asked the question, in your experience over how many years you've been involved in this, where was the presence of these apparent, Flat Earth Society members? Where was it? First place you've heard about the Earth moving upwards is here. But yet, everywhere else you go, you're going to hear either globe Earth or stationary flat Earth. So, the propaganda has the presence. The liars, the propaganda has the audience. Right? Because that's how it works. Just like mainstream. The mainstream populace out there are all hoodwinked by the mainstream narrative. No by some, apparent subdivision or some other little cult in the background. No. The main proprietors of deceit are here and have the majority's attention. The reason they told you that it's controlled opposition is because it's the truth. Aye, Skilly Wonka, they tricked you from the jump twice, but reason and logic will get you out of the mud, and that's what it comes down to. And again, I'm not going away. William, Andrew, all you other people, Airship Bear, JC, One Man, none of us are going to go away. Because we're equipped and armed with reality. And that's powerful. And it gives you a foundation and a strong base to stand upon. I'll meet anybody face on. Because I know that I've got the truth. No offence, but you're a genius. When's my statue getting erected, Jacqua? That's all I want to know. Dubai was a loud voice in that enunciation. It certainly was. These characters, you know, that came in and circled the whole fucking thing, you know, and started mantric statements about stationary earths and how flat earth societies controlled opposition, yet flat earth society had no fucking presence whatsoever on any social media. Absolutely none. The whole gambit of that was based solely on the upward motion of the earth, because they know that that's the linchpin. That's the thing that separates the whole lot. Exactly, Jai. See, that's the way I'm getting. You know, with the stationary flat earthers, they're absolutely more contemptible than the globe earthers. Stationary flat earthers constantly say static electricity and RDD is the reason why objects move, but they never have any practical demonstrations. No, because they don't. They can't. They cannot invert the gradient. They cannot change the direction, the orientation. They can't achieve any of that. The only thing they have is parlour tricks. Exactly, Maker Marks. That's exactly it. Well, they can call it retards or they like, Nachiketa. The reality is that they are the retards. They are willfully ignorant and they're perpetuating lies while professing that they're woke and that they're truthers and all this shite. It's a fucking shambles is what it is. If the earth would move upwards, everything would fall the same everywhere. There's air here. Take air out of the equation and everything decelerates at the same rate. Try again. Levitation tricks, exactly. Let's get to 100 likes, fans. Come on, yes. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe and all that good stuff. It helps the channel and promotes the algorithms and stuff, because that's what we're here for. We're here to be accepted and validated by how many subscribers we get. The more subscribers you have, the more validation you have, which means you're more genuine or something. No, they can't say that about me. I've tried to, and I expressed that to them. Look, it's because I care. These people took it that you're attacking. No, I'm trying to show them the truth because I actually care about the truth, and I care that people get the truth because it's powerful. If these flares started to grasp this, watch these globe earthers run a fucking mile. Watch it happen. Aye, Jacques, we should be treating them the same. That's the thing in Discord. Stationary earthers are pushing their shite on newbies. Exactly, finishing fin, because that's the propaganda. That's the disinformation campaign. The disinformation campaign's in full swing. All these flares running about the place telling everybody it's a stationary plane, it's a stationary plane. They're doing the bidding of these fuckwits. They don't even realise it. Jeranism said yesterday he could disprove rising earth by one word: parachutes. That's because Jeranism's a fucking imbecile. Absolute incompetent fucking imbecile. Jeranism, I dare you to come and have a conversation with me, son. Fucking dare you. But you won't, because you're a liar. Same as Oakley clouds. Gas go down, go boom boom. Now we've got Jeranism. Parachutes. Listen to them. They're a bunch of fucking inbred retards. I can disprove the earth's moving upwards because parachutes. What a fucking clown. Couldn't give a fuck about Jeranism, fucking Oakley, the rest of them. They're all one and the same. Disinformation agents. Whether they're working for some government or affiliated or they're just idiots, it's one and the same to me. They're spreading disinformation. They're fucking liars. I don't need to establish whether they work for the government or the Illuminati or any of that shite. They're liars. End of fucking story. For an apparent intellectual to think that he can say parachutes and think he's proved something tells you everything you need to know about the guy. He's a fucking clown, is what he is. Well, the thing is, Nat Chiquetta, these stationary flat earthers are not going to change. They have too much pride. Good. Because I'm just going to sit back with my popcorn and watch them descend into utter fucking madness. And I'm going to sit here and prod them. Then I'm going to dip my finger in the salt and I'm going to rub it right into their wounds. If they want to be willfully ignorant and keep spreading misinformation, that's what they deserve. Exactly, Angela Baby Carson. That's the first thing to learn the truth. Dropping the ego and try to learn. Exactly. How can you be a truther when you come from a bias? How can anybody profess they're a truther when they operate from a bias? It's ridiculous. This was supposed to be, as far as I was concerned, an objective inquiry. No bias. I'm no religious. I had no horse in any race. I didn't care what the earth was as long as I established what it actually is. Couldn't care if it was a pear, a square, a triangle. Couldn't give a fucking rat's ass. But no. If you're looking at the globe with scepticism, then your default position is a circle. A flat circle that's stationary with a wee dome on it. And an ice wall. I think it's up to the individuals, Joshua Deem. If people weren't shadow banned for commenting in chat rooms, people might learn something. But, you know, again, I can sit here and just logically and practically demonstrate this stuff. If somebody's just got a warped bias in their mind, they're just going to try and find excuses not to accept it, like you just witnessed the guy Ross. Grayson had Ross up against a wall with certain points, and you can see it in him. And he just jumps to some egotistical coping mechanism in order to try and maintain his sense of self-pride or something. It's fucking... The individual has to do the work themselves. I like my wee dome spoil sport. It might well have a fucking dome maker marks, I don't know, but... You know, people are asserting these things as facts. You know, that's the point I was making. I think even if it's a religious belief system, I think that's right, Sean. There's a lot that are religious, but they're trapped in their own, you know, processes, how they reason. You know, I mean, there's a lot of these people that claim they are stationary that are no part of any religious group. You know, it's right. I'm gonna get off. I've kept it there at the point that it was at. I think there's still about another half an hour of quality derp to get through, but I just can't stomach it in one sitting. It's quite draining. It really is difficult. So we'll leave it at that. As I say, any of these people ever think that they're brave enough and that they've got what it takes to step up to the mark, by all means message me. Right, alright mate, just finishing that, 2 seconds. Right, I'll catch you very soon. Take it easy people.